afternoon, a hare who was going into town on a country road met a tortoise who was going in the same direction. And said, "Your feet are so ugly and small, and your shell is so heavy and big, I'm surprised you could move at all." But the tortoise only said, "Small and ugly, big and heavy." "I think I could beat you in a race to town." "You must be joking," said the hare. "No, I'm not." Replied the tortoise. The hare just laughed and said, "You were somehow this will be the easiest race I've ever won." And with that, they began the race. So slow that within no time there was a huge distance between them. So the hare decided to rest for a while. He ate some grass. He drank some water. Then he stretched a little. And before he knew it, he was fast asleep. In the meantime, while the hare was sleeping, the tortoise was slowly moving forward. He did not stop for grass or water, and pretty soon he plodded by the sleeping hare, which brought him very close to town. And still the hare was sleeping, but finally he began to wake up. Tortoise had passed him while he was sleeping. As he looked down the road, he could barely see the tortoise approaching town. So he began to run as fast as he could, faster than he had ever run before, and soon he could see that he was getting very close to the tortoise, but he was too late. The tortoise had already won the race. One day, a great big lion was sleeping in the jungle. Captured a tiny little mouse. "Please, Mr. Lion," begged the mouse. "Please don't eat me." "Why not?" said the lion. "Well, if you don't eat me," said the mouse, thinking quickly, "I will be able to help you someday, and perhaps give his thunderous roar. Well, actually, all the animals, except for one. For when the mouse heard the mighty roar, he ran to where the lion was and climbed onto the net. "Now I can help you, Mr. Lion," said the mouse, and he chewed the hunter's net. With one final bite, the lion slipped through and was free. "Well, Mr. Mouse," said the lion, "you sure kept your word. Won't you please join me now as I go on my walk?" And with that, they set out together on that bright, beautiful day. Which proves that an act of kindness, no matter how small, is never wasted. A quarrel took place between the north wind and the sun over who was more powerful. Neither could convince the other of its ultimate power, but when they saw a man on the road far below, they knew that they had found a way of settling their dispute. "Let's see who can get the cloak off the back of that traveler," said the north wind. "Whoever could do that surely would be more powerful," agreed the sun. The north wind went first and set out a long blast of cold air, trying to blow off the man's garment. "Boy, is it cold," said the traveler. But the cold air just made him shiver and rub his hands together to keep warm. After several of these blasts, in one final effort, the north wind let out even a longer blast of cold air. But the traveler only pulled his garment tighter and tighter. So the sun went next. After driving the clouds from the sky, he sent down his warm rays on the traveler. Although the sun's beams were not forceful or violent, they still had their effect. "I was so cold before," said the traveler, "but now I'm becoming too warm. Perhaps I should take off my cloak." And with that, he did, and went over to rest in the shade of the nearest tree. It was midday and hot, and an ant went walking to a fountain to quench his thirst. He climbed up and up and up, but he found that he could not get close enough to the water for a drink. So he leaned over and over and over until he finally fell in. Help! Help! He cried. I'm drowning, and I have no chance to survive unless somebody saves me. Luckily for him, a dove was sitting in a nearby tree. When he heard the ant's cries, he plucked a leaf from the tree with his beak. He flew down the fountain and placed it in the water. Although it was only a small leaf, it was like a raft for the ant, who was able to paddle to safety to the side of the fountain. Thank you, Mr. Dove, he said. You saved my life, and I shall never forget this. Whereupon the dove said, You're welcome, and flew back to his favorite branch on his favorite tree. Unknown to the dove, a fowler had been watching him and was preparing to catch him on that very day. He snuck up quietly on the dove, and he was just about to catch him when he screamed, Ouch! Who bit me on the heel? He looked down and he saw the ant scurrying for cover, and when he looked up again, the dove had already flown away. Thank you, Mr. Ant, said the dove. You also saved my life, and I shall never forget this. Which proves that one good turn deserves another. A mule, who had grown contented and very happy with herself, commenced one day to run and jump and behave in a very outrageous manner. She noticed how fast she could run and soon was convinced that no one was faster than she.